Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well today. Today is March 14th, which for the math geeks out there means it's Pie Day. So if you're a math geek or if you're not a math geek, go have some pie. Let's celebrate. In other news, unfortunately, today's the day that we found out that Stephen Hawking died. When he was diagnosed in the 60s, he wasn't given more than a couple of years to live with ALS, and somehow he managed to push through for almost another 50 years. So well done on him. He will be sorely missed by everybody in the scientific community. So while those two things are being celebrated and mourned all over the world, more locally here in the United States, today is the day that thousands of students all over the country are doing a peaceful protest walkout at their schools to protest gun violence. I know I'm going to push some buttons here, but I have nothing but respect for the kids and the faculty and the parents who are supporting these kids and making the decision to do this protest. The last number I saw, I believe it was earlier this morning, said that since Columbine, there have been 208 school shootings. Now, there may be some discrepancies in those numbers depending on what's being classified as a school shooting. For instance, recently there was a student whose parents were coming to pick him up from college, and he shot his parents. So I don't know if we want to classify that as a school shooting, but nonetheless, there have been more than 200 school shootings since Columbine, and that was April 20th of 1999. So in the course of 18 years, I guess we're coming up on 19 years now, more than 200 school shootings. I graduated in 1999, just shortly after Columbine happened, and I was 17 years old. I wasn't really paying attention to the news at that point. But as I've gotten older, I paid attention to the news more. And now I've got a kid who goes to school. So now I pay attention to the news even more than ever before. For really as long as I can remember, hell, even back as far as like my parents can remember, school has always been a relatively safe space. I mean, minus the day-to-day bullying, things like that students do as far as calling names, picking fights, things like that. But over the course of the past several years anyway, students, teachers, parents live in fear of sending kids to school or going to school because you don't know if it's going to be the last time you're going to see that person. And now, like I said, I've got a kid in school, and it's terrifying to think that at any point I could get on Facebook or I could get a phone call or something like that saying my kid's school is being attacked by a gunman. So that's why I commend these students, the faculty, the parents, anybody supporting the students that are doing this walkout today. A lot of them are being criticized, they're being threatened with punishment. I can only imagine the fear they're going through with the idea that during this walkout, maybe they're going to get shot, because these gatherings is where shooters like to do their dirty deeds. And I think it's a cowardice move for a shooter to do something like that. I think a mass shooting of any kind like that is a cowardice thing to do. But to attack a school, a church, a concert, anything, a movie theater, anything like that, where it's just easy prey, is a cowardice thing to do. So these kids, these faculty members, they're taking their life in their hand to say we've had enough. We've had enough of living in fear. We've had enough of the government not doing anything. And these kids, they're 13, 14, 15, maybe 17 years old. And they're not old enough to vote yet. They're not old enough to have their voice heard from a legal standpoint. They can't vote. The things that they say to their representatives and that kind of stuff goes on deaf ears because they're not old enough to vote. They don't have a say yet. So they're doing the only thing they can at this point is demonstrating their frustration by scheduling this walkout as a movement of solidarity, saying we're all tired of this. We're all tired of being victims. We're tired of being shot at. We're tired of living in fear of being shot at. And these kids are being criticized, saying they don't know what they're talking about. And when they're older, they'll understand what all of this is about. That infuriates me. These politicians who live their lives in the White House and in the Senate, the Congress, the wherever. Their kids go to private schools. They don't deal with the day-to-day stuff that these kids are dealing with. So for these people to say, well, you don't understand, I think it's quite the opposite of that. These politicians don't understand. They live in these isolated worlds where they live in their own little bubble. And it amazes me that these politicians are criticizing these children for using their First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, freedom of peaceful assembly, and they're being threatened with punishment for exercising those rights. And that blows my mind, because it seems these days that certain parts of our government only want to acknowledge and cherry pick the amendments that make them happy. I was on Instagram earlier, looking through some pictures of somebody that I follow, and they posted a picture of one of the protests, and people were in there criticizing these kids, saying that these kids don't have any right to protest the Second Amendment. It's an amendment. It's already there. It can't be changed. And that's mind-boggling to me, that these people don't understand that the amendment was a change. That's the whole point of amendments, is to change the original document to fit with the current time and the current legal needs that our country has. The Second Amendment was a change to the Constitution. And it can be changed again if we get the right people in place, if we get the right like-minded people to work together. But these people think that the Constitution is like the Ten Commandments. It's written in stone and that's it. These are the rules and they can't be changed. And that's infuriating. These people that they cherry pick everything to fit what they want, and everybody else doesn't matter. Anytime somebody wants to use another amendment to further their movement, well, they're misinterpreting that. And they refuse to understand that they're misinterpreting parts of the Second Amendment. Yes, it says the right to keep and bear arms, but it also stipulates a well-regulated militia, not just any jackass who can pick up a weapon and go shoot somebody. And I want to be very, very clear here. I like guns. I like going to the range. I like shooting. I like shooting tin cans or targets or whatever. I'm a big fan. But I also believe that there should be certain regulations put in place, background checks and things like that, to maybe keep the crazy people from having guns. And I know, crazy is a demeaning term, but go with me on this, right? If somebody's got a history of domestic abuse, if somebody's got a history of mental illness, do we want those people who are violent by nature? Do we want these people who could just snap at any point and decide, it, I'm going to go shoot somebody today because the voice in my head said I should go do that? Do you want those people having guns? Do you want the people who hear voices, who are just completely radicalized by some weird belief that an alien on a spaceship is going to take them away if they go shoot up a school? Now, granted, these are hypotheticals, but that kind of stuff can happen. And the Trump administration has gone to great lengths to make mentally ill people have an easier time to obtain weapons legally. Legally! I have family members generations back, in fact very close generations back, who have been diagnosed as schizophrenic and mentally unstable for more than 30 years now. But he can still walk into any gun store in the area and go buy a gun. Are you kidding me? But these students who are protesting today are facing possible violence, they're facing suspension, punishment, and public ridicule from all of these nuts that are out there who don't understand how the law works. And I commend those kids. I commend the parents of those kids for letting them do it, the faculty, the staff, anybody who's there, anybody who's taking part in these protests, I commend them. Partially because it's a peaceful protest to voice the concerns and the fears that these people have, but also because it shows who our future leaders are. These kids can't vote yet. These kids, again, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. In a couple of years, they can vote. A few years after that, maybe they can run for office. These are the kids who are going to make the changes to our future. And I hope that the kids that are doing this today are our leaders in the future.